Hello and welcome to not Bramlage Coliseum. It's the first time that we're coming at you from a road game. I'm Ryan Black, Mercury Sports Wrap-Up KSA beat writer. It's Greg Woods here, a sports writer for the paper, and then our staff photographer, Nick Oatley. And we're here after this game that no one really cares about now. KU beat K-State 81-60, but man, it was a thing that happened in the last seconds. This all-out crazy brawl, melee, fracas, whatever you want to call it. Everything just went crazy, and we're sitting right here where it happened. Greg and I were literally
like a seat over to the left.
Yeah, like basically 2-3 feet away from where it all happened, and Nick was on the other side of it with his camera. And so, guys, I just think people want to know, because this is like the biggest story, maybe not just in sports, but maybe the biggest story in anything, at least in America. I mean, this is going to be going, on those morning shows and stuff. People don't even care about sports, but did you see what happened at the end of the K-State KU basketball game last night? So, guys, I guess, Nick, why don't you go first? Because obviously you kind of shown up in a lot of photos because you got such a distinctive hat. Just tell us, because you're doing your job just shooting photos. When did you immediately kind of know, whoa, something crazy happening over here?
Yeah, I was sitting on the sideline taking photos, and I saw David Sloan come up and go for a layup with just a couple of seconds left, and he was blocked, and then short.
Yeah, that was Dejuan Gordon.
Yeah,
like David Sloan came running up to help him. Yeah.
Okay. And so Dejuan Gordon got blocked, and then I saw a couple of players step behind the hoop, and one photographer stood up, and I heard some shouting, and soon after that I ran over, and everyone kind of just started running into each other, and arms were flailing, and a chair was picked up at one point in the process too, and it was crazy. I've never seen anything like it before.
And then, Greg, how about for you?
Well, first of all, I regret not grabbing my phone and starting to record video earlier. But I think in that moment, you can probably say the same, is that I was just in shock for the first few seconds because I was working on my story, getting ready to write about something that I won't even be writing about anymore. And I look up and I see him block it, and he stands over him. And usually standing over somebody and shouting down at them is a pretty disrespectful thing in basketball. So at that point, I was like, okay, something might be going on here. And then everybody starts, swarming over here. James Love, who didn't play tonight, he's injured.
And hasn't played all season.
Right. So he comes over here, he's the one that's going to be in a lot of the photos. He's throwing punches with the Sousa, literally right here. And it wasn't until things were kind of calming down that I was able to finally have the wherewithal to grab my phone and take video. But I think for me, the overarching theme and what I felt was just shock, because obviously you can probably say the same, is that none of us had ever experienced something like this live, and especially not this close either.
Yeah.
It was feet away. We could have. And there's video of me, I stood up and walked away a little bit because I was.
Yeah, you were getting your stuff. I remember you were saying that.
And I ran towards it because I didn't know what else to do.
You did the smart thing.
Yeah.
I wanted the picture of it.
Right. But I just stood up because for a second I was worried about, are they going to come crashing into our row? Where is this headed? It was just a whole disaster. It was insane.
Yeah, and for me, and so what's funny, Greg, is you're literally sitting right there with Riley Gates, who got the video that's basically now gone viral. I think last time I saw it had 2 million views. It might be well over that now. But it was just Johnny on the spot. Not only was he in the perfect position, but he immediately started recording, and he got all of the main kind of throws and shoves and everything. And so I was sitting here, and again, like you were saying, Greg, I just saw the crush of people starting to come this way. And again, I was just worried that maybe I should have done like you, Greg, where I just sat here and was just looking at my computer, and like I said, I keep saying that Antonio Gordon, a K-State freshman,
he was involved too.
Was about to try. It looked like he was going to try to jump over the table to get back here and do whatever he was wanting to do with DeSouza. And we didn't really start recording until a little bit later. Really, all the crazy stuff had happened. But I've kind of mentioned on Twitter, the only thing I can ever say that I've ever been around that was close to this in terms of being this close to absolute bedlam happening in front of me was when I used to cover Auburn, and when they returned the field goal to beat Alabama in the 2013 Iron Bowl. I was on the sideline because we go down there the last few minutes of the game, and everyone thought it was going to go to overtime because Alabama missed the field goal. It was going to be the first overtime in the history of the Iron Bowl. And then we're on the sideline. I'm there with my colleague at the time at the Columbus Ledger Inquirer, David Mitchell, and we're looking down, and we're like, because it's like we just did not think there was any way that Chris Davis could score, and he runs up the sideline, somehow stays in bounds, and then literally almost before he even gets in the end zone, you start seeing tens of thousands of Auburn fans start running onto the field. And again, at that point, I'm worried about, like, how in the world am I going to get through all these people to get to the post-game press conference stuff? And so, like I said, that's the only thing I can compare to this. But even that's different because, again, that was more about people celebrating and being happy, whereas this was, like, very big Division I athletes potentially wanting to throw punches at each other, and that we, not just us as media members, but it happened, unfortunately, I think the worst part was happening right here where the seating for people with disabilities is at. And I mean, I don't think we've heard anything about anybody getting hurt, but there definitely seem to be some very upset people, and certainly our thoughts are with them if anything happened. And you know, Nick, you were kind of in the middle of some of that, just with some of the craziness that happened.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people teared up, and there was a lady with a service dog there who was freaking out a little bit. So I kind of just wanted to be out of the way of the players and security to make sure that they had their space. And I would say in probably a matter of minutes, it started and it was gone.
Well, I'm glad that both, you know, K-State head coach Bruce Weber and KU coach Bill Self, I mean, they say what they need to say in terms. I mean, it's embarrassing that this happened. It's terrible that it happened. It mars a great rivalry, not just in hoops, but in football and the other sports that they compete in. And again, I'm just thankful that it didn't go so crazy. Because again, I really thought, again, what was going to happen was that maybe a K-State player was going to go up in the crowd. I mean, it's right where a lot of the students sit, and I just thought it was going to get even worse than what it ended up being. And you know, guys, like I guess at this point, it's one of those things where you just, I mean, KU thoroughly dominated the game. There's not really much you can say about that. But I think what the most interesting thing will be going forward is, does this force KU to change anything here about the seeding? Maybe it won't. Maybe it's just like they're going to say, well, that's a 1 in a million thing that happened, and we'll never have to worry about it again. But yeah, guys, it was a wild night, and I hate that, again, we're talking about this instead of talking about what maybe could have been a great game, and you know, KU just had its way, you know, with K-State. And I don't know, do you guys have any final thoughts on any of this? Is anything that's on your mind? Because I'm still very amped, you know, just it's still kind of crazy just how close we were. Like, and that's the other funny thing, guys, that we've talked about is that, you know, if this happened last year, we would have been sitting
way up there,
14 rows up, just watching it. And you know, just the way the KU credentialing process worked this year, we got down here on the floor, as did Riley, because Riley would have been up there too. So it's just funny and crazy that we just happen to be right here in the middle of all this. And like I said, I'm just glad to at least have heard at this point there's no injuries from anything. But I guess we don't know at this point if anything is going to come of that. So. Like, if you just don't know if you guys have anything else.
That would be my only thing. Is just hope that everybody's okay.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, given where this happened, where people with disabilities sit. Hope that everybody there was okay, and all of us as media are okay. And
I'd be very interested to see what precautions come with the next KU Wildcat basketball game.
Yeah, no, I mean, they'll be playing in Manhattan next month, and that certainly is going to be, not that it's not always a game that's always looked forward to, at least by the in-state people, but I think there's going to be just a lot of national eyes on it, especially after this. And I will say this too, guys, you know, is that even though we might not hear, you usually only hear about things if someone gets physically hurt, is you just hope that these people don't have like some mental scars, or like maybe they'll never come to a basketball game again because they're going to be worried about any time a ball, or you just never know what emotional kind of things can trigger somebody. So it's like I said, folks, it was a wild night here in Lawrence, and you know, I appreciate you joining us here from the Mercury. We're going to have a lot more coverage online in tomorrow's edition of the Mercury. So for Ryan Black and Nick Oatley and Greg Woods, thanks for joining us.